Two countries that together make up almost 45% of the world's economic output are in an active economic war with each other. One of them is the United States. The other is China. And the weapons they're using aren't missiles or troops. They're tariffs, sanctions, export controls, and currency moves. This has been building for years. But in 2026, it's at a level that affects almost every product you buy, every investment you hold, and, depending on your job, possibly your employment. So let's actually understand it. Let's make this simple. First, let's understand what a trade war actually is. A trade war is an escalating cycle of economic retaliation between two countries. Country A puts tariffs on Country B's goods. Country B retaliates with tariffs on Country A's goods. Country A raises them higher. Country B raises them higher. Both sides make it increasingly expensive for their citizens and businesses to buy things from the other country. It sounds self-destructive, and in some ways it is. But each side has a calculation that the other side will suffer more, or break first, or make concessions. It's a test of economic pain tolerance. So how did the US and China end up here? The relationship goes back decades, and for a long time, it looked like it might actually work out. When China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001, the idea was, as China becomes more integrated into the global economy, it would gradually become more like other market economies. Trade would flow. Both sides would benefit. China would grow. The US would get cheap goods. And for a while, that's kind of what happened. The US got inexpensive electronics, clothing, furniture, and thousands of other products. American consumers' purchasing power grew. Prices stayed low even as wages stagnated. China's economy grew at an astonishing pace. Hundreds of millions of people moved out of poverty. It became the manufacturing hub of the world. But there were things the optimistic version of this story glossed over. The US started noticing things that felt unfair. Chinese companies were receiving massive government subsidies, money from the state that allowed them to undercut competitors on price. In a free market, that's not really free market competition. Intellectual property theft became a serious complaint. American companies doing business in China were required to share their technology with local partners, and that technology often ended up in the hands of Chinese competitors. The trade deficit, the gap between what the US imports from China versus what it exports to China, grew enormous. In 2018, the US imported about $500 billion more from China than it exported to them. That imbalance felt unsustainable. And underneath all of it, a geopolitical shift was happening. China was no longer just a developing country catching up. It was becoming a genuine rival in technology, in military capability, in global influence. The trade relationship stopped looking like mutual benefit. It started looking like one side building itself up at the other side's expense. Tariffs started going up in 2018 under the Trump administration. The Biden administration kept most of them and added more in some sectors. And in 2025 and 2026, they escalated sharply again. Today, the US has tariffs of up to 145% on many Chinese imports. China has tariffs of around 125% on American goods. Both sides are hitting each other hard. But here's what makes this trade war different from most. It's not really just about trade. The deeper fight is about who controls the technologies that will define the next 50 years. Semiconductors, the chips that power every phone, car, AI system, and weapon. The US has moved aggressively to restrict China's access to advanced chip-making technology. American companies are banned from selling certain chips and chip-making equipment to China. American allies have been pressured to do the same. Artificial intelligence. Whoever leads in AI may have decisive military and economic advantages. Both countries know this. Electric vehicles and batteries. China currently dominates the global EV supply chain. The US is trying to build a domestic alternative with subsidies and tariffs. Rare earth minerals, the materials needed to make electronics, batteries, and defense equipment. China controls a dominant share of global rare earth processing. In 2025, China began restricting exports of some of these materials to the US as a retaliatory move. That got attention fast. This is the real trade war, not just who makes more t-shirts. Who controls the physical and digital infrastructure of the 21st century? So who's winning? Here's the honest answer. It's genuinely hard to tell, and both sides would probably say the other one is. The US has had wins. Some manufacturing is returning. Semiconductor investment in the US is at historic levels. The CHIPS Act brought hundreds of billions in factory announcements. Taiwan Semiconductor is building fabs in Arizona. But it's slow and expensive, and American consumers are paying higher prices in the meantime. China has had wins too. They've diversified. Less of their trade goes through the US now. They've deepened relationships with Southeast Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. Their EV industry is globally competitive. Companies like BYD are selling cars in dozens of countries. But China's economy has its own serious problems. Youth unemployment is high. The property sector had a near collapse. Consumer confidence is shaky. They need export markets, and losing access to US consumers hurts. Neither side is winning cleanly. Both sides are absorbing costs. What does this mean for regular people right now? If you buy electronics, appliances, clothing, or furniture, you're paying more than you would without the trade war. If you work in certain manufacturing sectors, steel, solar, some tech manufacturing, you may have actually benefited. If you're a farmer, particularly soybeans, pork, corn, or wheat, the retaliatory tariffs from China cost you export markets that haven't fully come back. If you invest in the stock market, uncertainty from trade war escalations is a genuine source of volatility. Markets hate unpredictability, and this relationship creates a lot of it. Here's the uncomfortable truth about where this goes. Trade wars don't have clean endings. There's no ceremony, no signing on a ship deck. They simmer. They occasionally escalate. They sometimes de-escalate a bit. They become the background condition of the global economy. The US and China are too economically intertwined to fully decouple. Full decoupling would be enormously painful for both sides. So instead, what's likely is a slow, grinding reconfiguration. Supply chains shifting gradually toward friendshoring, moving production to countries that are political allies rather than rivals. A new normal where both sides trade less with each other, and both sides pay more for the things they still make. That process takes a decade, probably longer. Quick recap. The US-China trade war started as a dispute about trade imbalances, subsidies, and IP theft. But it's really about who controls the technology and industries that determine global power in the 21st century. Right now, US tariffs on Chinese goods up to 145%. Chinese tariffs on US goods around 125%. Both sides are absorbing costs. Neither has clearly won. The real fight is over semiconductors, AI, EVs, and rare earth minerals, not just the price of sneakers. It won't end cleanly. It'll grind on, reshaping global supply chains slowly over years. And you're feeling it every time you pay more for something that used to be cheaper. That's the trade war, made simple.